Awesome, great. Wow, these lights are really bright. I don't have slides because, I guess there's one slide. So I don't have any slides for us today because I thought I was gonna be talking to kids, not a lot of parents, but I guess we're all here, so that's okay. And I know that kids hate being talked at, right? So let's just have like a really good conversation today, and hopefully I'll tell you some stories and we can all learn something from them. I guess I was invited here because I've done a few cool things like be on Shark Tank and like get money from that. And so in thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, you guys are all probably wondering how I do so and how I got there. So I guess we can start from the very, very beginning. I was 6 years old when I first came to the United States of America. My parents came here and took me just so that I could get to like the best school in the world, which was supposed to be Harvard, but now it is the University of Chicago. And coming to America, I didn't know any English, right? So it was very hard to make friends, but I guess like the good thing was that I was able to look at American society and behavior and language from an outsider's perspective. I remember one of the first times that I felt really awkward or really nervous was in 5th grade. We had a field trip and the teacher told us that we could bring our iPods because there was gonna be a long bus ride. And I didn't own an iPod. And so I talked to my dad and I said, Dad, like I need a music player. I need an MP3 player so I'm not that one kid who doesn't have anything. And so he lent me his like CD player along with 2 CDs. The first was Michael Bolton and the other one was Kenny G. So I don't know if you guys know about that, but the kids at the time were listening to Green Day and I felt that I was gonna get bullied, right? Because first of all, who listens to these artists? But I got to school the next day, and some kids were all, sharing their music, seeing like, oh, I have this artist, I have the new iPod, and when kids asked me what I had, I showed them, and I knew they were gonna bully me, they were gonna make jokes, but they didn't even know who Michael Bolton was, so they couldn't even make jokes about it. And when I realized that I was different, but it was okay. Right. Similarly, a few summers in middle school, I would go see movies by myself, or I would Yelp and I would find restaurants that I really wanted to try. And I didn't realize that it was socially unacceptable for me to go see a movie by myself. I didn't realize it was socially unacceptable for me to go get food and get dinner at like a fancier restaurant by myself. And I think largely as a child, that's what entrepreneurship is about, right? It's not about MVPs or exit strategies or business models. It's just about being different and being okay with that. So I guess that's the first idea. And it's that I guess life is very, really expensive. You often hear life is too short to waste your time doing something that you don't enjoy. And I never truly understood that until I got to college. And so in college, you pay a lot of money to be there. And it doesn't matter what you do, money is gonna be flying out of your pockets the whole time. I realized that my first year in college, I was coming back from the gym and I was deciding, should I take a nap? Should I study? Should I watch Netflix? And I realized it didn't matter what I was gonna be doing. I was still spending the money. And so you turn out that you see that like college is basically too expensive for you to not do what you love. And I think that could be, I guess like how we think about life. It's just kind of hard because life is really, really long. But I guess that's how I try to live. And as a kid, when I was 13, you realize that you don't have a mortgage to pay. You don't have a wife or a husband or kids to take care of. And so that's like actually the best time for you to do anything you want. And alongside with that is that people don't expect you to succeed, right? People expect you to mess up. People don't think that you're gonna actually make anything important. And so there's really nothing for you to lose. And so I guess that's the first idea that I wanted to tell you guys all about. The second thing was that when I first came to school, or when I first came to America, there was a huge separation between like school and life. Right, teachers would teach you things in school, and then afterwards you forget about everything you learned during that day, and then you just go home and you play video games or whatever it may be. And I think for me, I didn't quite understand that. And I realized that school can very much be applied. Right. I remember in middle school, a lot of kids would be asking me, like, or just talking, like, why do we need to learn the Pythagorean theorem, right? When are we ever going to use the Pythagorean theorem in real life, or when do we get a job? And I don't know about you, but every time I cross a field or like I cross an intersection diagonally, I always thank Pythagoras. The idea there, right, is that you can make what you learn in school applicable to your own life, and that's kind of a silly example. But in high school, I read this philosopher by the name of John Dewey, and he said that the philosophy of education is the philosophy of life, and the philosophy of life is the philosophy of education. And I try to do my best to really apply that. And so I guess a little bit about the projects that I've built, they've all come from within the classroom. Right, so the first project, TiEcon, the one that was on Shark Tank, it started because in freshman year in 9th grade, a professor taught us about the e-waste, the e-waste crisis. And from China, we realized we watched videos, documentaries about how people were shipping phones, used electronics, and were polluting countries such as India, Ghana, China. And I knew that I wanted to do something about that. And so I went along and I created a website. I started thinking about how I could, change this. And so we started the business of buying, refurbishing, and recycling and reselling used electronics. And it's running to this day, and it's helping pay for college. So I'm very proud of that project. In college, as an econ major, you learn a lot about different concepts like asymmetric information. Basically the idea that some people know some things and some people don't. And that creates a lot of deadweight loss, which is basically just like inefficiencies, right? And at the same time, I was mentoring low-income students in the south side of Chicago, and I realized that a lot of these kids were super smart, they just didn't know that they could actually go to good schools. And so we built this social platform, basically to help low-income students learn more about financial aid and college access. And currently, I'm working on a new project. It's called Flipside, and essentially that was motivated by me wanting to learn more about machine learning and me starting to care more about politics, right? This year, a lot of my friends have become very upset at the political situation, and I guess a huge part of it is because we're all stuck in these social media bubbles or filter bubbles or echo chambers. We don't understand one another anymore. And so what I'm trying to do today is use natural language processing, use machine learning to help broaden our views, to help feed you articles that you may not agree with, but is meant to resonate with you, is written in a way that you would understand and that would make you overall a smarter person. And so those are basically the two ideas, right? One is that it's okay to be different, it's okay to be weird, and you really shouldn't spend your time and your energy in trying to be normal or trying to fit in, because life is really just too short or too expensive to do that. And then the other thing is that we should never separate school and real life. Because as a student, school is life, and there's no point in saying that I'm in school now and real life starts when I'm 18, right? You should really just start your life today. So that's all I have, but I'd love to have more conversation with you guys, and I think we have some time for questions. So let's do some questions.
So I had a question that I have heard great entrepreneurs. So this is Silicon Valley, and it is part of USA. United Nations has 200 countries. How can we develop 200 countries as good as Silicon Valley or as good as superpower America?
Yeah. Man, that's a big question, huh? So the question is, how do we develop 200 countries to be just as good as us? I guess it really starts with understanding who we are and understanding the problems that affect us. Right. So for me personally, I don't feel comfortable solving problems in Africa when I don't have the domain expertise. And that's part of what schooling is, right? Is that you understand, you become experts in what you're capable of and what you're interested in. And from those, you can start developing solutions. I have a friend who is currently out in Uganda working with healthcare out there, and that was what he studied, that was what he majored in, and he lived in Uganda for 2 years. He has the expertise to do so, and if that is truly interesting to you, then absolutely go do that.
What was your company that you got onto Shark Tank, and like really why did you make it, and what was your intention for it?
That's a great question. So, absolutely. So intentions. So one, I was volunteering at like a local park to plant trees to get volunteer hours, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do as a middle school student every Saturday morning. But after I did it twice, I like hated it. Right? Because like you don't want to wake up Saturday morning to plant trees, right? You want to sleep in, you want to watch cartoons. But I realized that was a problem, right? It's that it's hard to go green. It's hard to do good for the environment. And so the company, TiEcon, that went on Shark Tank, it was motivated by the fact that we want to empower everyone and make going green easy, right? And how do we do that? So we can use the internet. Right, you can use the internet to reach like people all across the world and get them to ship in their old used electronics so that you can recycle them responsibly and to make sure that they don't go to other countries like China, India, Ghana to be tossed away in landfills and stuff like that. So just do what you care about, just like find something that you're really interested in, find something that you really want to do, and tell your parents that you want a little bit of money, right? And like we have the best parents here, so they'll give you the money to start your own business. All right, that's a fantastic question. Thank you.